right, well, thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate it. This is the first of 2 budget forums. The other one will be tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the same room. We're filling in today for our CFO, Cliff Swan, who couldn't be here tonight, so bear with us. We'll do our best tonight. I'm going to do the intro here, and then we'll toss it over to our accounting manager, Terry West. I'm going to jump in. Well, first of all, you saw that little intro video. We put that together in the last couple of days, real quick, just to give you a taste of what goes into putting together some of these events, because that's really what this community is all about. The special events, the clubs, the setups, all of those things that go into our facilities. That was just a tiny sampling in 2 of our facilities over the last couple of days. And you see how much it costs to put up those tables and those chairs with some of our employees. And that's just at the minimum wage cost. If you extrapolate that over the 4 months of those years, that's a lot of events. We didn't do the full cost. It depends on what the exact setup and event is. But it gives you an example of how busy our facilities are, how a minimum wage increase can affect us, how adding just a few more events into our facilities can affect us. So let's keep that in mind as we go through some of these budget presentations and what our costs are and what goes into putting these things together. All right, so we are almost 46 years old. I don't know all these gentlemen by name, but if you go to the Historical Society, they'll tell you all about it. When this community was built, these gentlemen, of course, were all of the greatest generation. We have seen 3 different generations at least move into this community. The boomer generation came in after that, and it was a big whisper that they were going to change everything. Oh my gosh, you know, we've got it just the way we want it. And guess what? Boomers did change everything, and the community and the amenities all adjusted to fit the needs and the wants of those boomers. And it was a balance because we had and continue to have a 50-year generation gap with this. And now, as of 2020, Gen X is coming in. So we've got new wants and needs. And that's what we're all about here in Sun City West. We're a master plan community, right? Del Webb built this. He built it for active adults to come in, enjoy the best years of their life, and make sure we've got the amenities, the activities in a safe environment at an affordable price. And if we don't keep up with those changing needs and those changing demographics, we become irrelevant. So why are we here tonight? Because we're balancing that. The need for change, the need to keep up with trends, but the need to remain an affordable community. So we're going to walk through some of that. Take a look at how it's changed over the years, over the 46 years of being built out. We don't just run it like a private business. You know, if we were a corporation and we were worried about the bottom line and making a profit for the shareholders, we would run it much differently. You wouldn't see the rooms being set up and turned like you did in that video in the beginning. We're running it for the residents. We're a planned community, Title 33. We are here for you. We collect dues from you, and we use those dues to put on the events, the activities, and maintain these facilities for you. So Title 33, check it out if you're not familiar with it. Check out our bylaws, check out our policies. All of that governs how we operate and how we do what we do. We are also a not-for-profit organization. So we are a corporation, but we're not here to make a profit. If we do bring in more money than we spend, it goes into the reserves, and those are used to improve the facilities. Again, if we tried to price it to make a profit, we would be run much, much differently than we are. So if the dues are going up or the APF is going up, it's because that's what it costs to maintain this facility and to plan for the future and to have those reserves in place so that we don't have a special assessment. So all of that goes into that. All of that is based on who we are and how we're organized. You've probably seen some of these rankings. You know, we're number 2 here, we're number 5 here, number 10 here. That is fantastic, and it is amazing when you think about it. To be number 2 in the nation or number 10 in the nation as an active adult retirement community, there are 77 active adult communities in the Phoenix metro area alone. And those are planned communities, not just the retirement homes or the independent living facilities. I'm talking actual planned communities, active adult, not even the multifamily. So to be that high in the rankings nationally is incredible. And it doesn't just happen. So number one, over and over and over again, is the villages. Why is that? Because they're huge and they're not built out. They have the developer behind them. They have huge marketing budgets behind them. Their homes are brand new. They've got the latest and greatest, everything shiny and new. Things can be subsidized so they can keep dues artificially low. And the trends, they build what is current right now. To compete with that at 46 years old and be that high in the rankings is incredible. But it doesn't, you can't just rest on those laurels. You've got to keep up with that. You've got to stay up with the trends, keep your dues affordable, keep your reserves up, and you can compete with someone like the villages. Now, if the villages are still doing that in 46 years, then I'll be impressed. All right, it's not all about the amenities. It's a huge part, and that is one advantage we have in Sun City West. There are very few communities that have as many amenities as we have. It takes a lot of money to keep them in shape, but if our dues start skyrocketing, that's one thing that's going to work against us. So we're very cognizant of that, constantly trying to keep our dues in order and make sure those don't get out of line. So we keep an eye on what the competition is doing, what other age-restricted communities are doing, and we are right in line with that. Terry's going to talk about what our projected dues increases are going to be and what our projected APF is going to be. But I did want to talk a minute about our dues in relation to inflation. So we hear a lot about dues going up. Why are they going up? Obviously, inflation has hit us, but if you look at the last immediate 10 years in relation to inflation, the dues have gone up less than they did in the previous 10 years, even though inflation outpaced it. So we are doing something right. We're keeping those costs in check, even though inflation has outpaced those previous 10 years. We're controlling costs. And then if you look at this a little further back, here's what happens if you don't control those costs, but handle them and deal with them, not kick the can down the road. If you do that and you have 0% increases, what happens? Catches up with you and you got a 15% spike. Nobody wants that. Nobody can plan for that. Makes it very hard for people to handle their personal budgets. So if we can moderate it, as you see in these later years, it's much more predictable. It evens out. It compounds. It's a much more stable community and everybody can plan for it. So that's what we do try to do. We do aim to do. It can be difficult politically because who doesn't want a 0% increase? But it always gets you later and you see a huge spike. So that is one of the goals that we aim for, and one of the things we try to do is keep that curve or those spikes much more leveled out. All right, I'm not going to drone on. We're going to have Terry up here, and she's going to get into the meat and potatoes. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie. We'll dive into the really interesting part of this now. Our budget goals, we always start out every year when we're looking at our budget. The primary goal is to preserve, protect, and maintain and enhance the assets of the association. Meet and exceed the minimum reserve funding requirement established by policy. Right now, the policy is at least 40% of the fully funded balance of our reserve study. Continue to invest in new capital projects approved by the governing board, and also strive to maintain the rec center's high standards, including providing the existing services as they are or even better than they are today. The budget includes two parts, the operating expense budget and the capital improvement budget. The operating budget supports all these services you see up here, including golf courses, library, clubs, membership, special events. And then we have the capital improvement budget. That includes the reserve study of over 1,200 line items that we have to, that are always constantly being looked at, and repair and replacement of those items, plus new capital projects. As everybody knows, their household costs are going up. If you look at this, compared to 2021 to 2024 expenses, Big Mac meal went up 30%. And if you buy 2 of those a month, you'd be spending over $55 a year more than you were in 2021. Rec center dues, on the other hand, we only had a 9% total increase, so you're only spending $43 more a year than you were in the year of 2021. So trying to keep those things down. The other thing that we're always big factor in our budget is the minimum wage. From 2009, the minimum wage was $7.25 to this year, or 2024, it went to it's up to $14.35. At $7.10 more a year, or an hour, that we're paying for minimum wage. Going through a budget, there are several places that we can get revenue for our association. The largest two are membership at 54% of our total revenues, and golf is 39%. And then the others make up this, so 93% of our revenue comes from membership and golf. Our expenses, it's always people and power. 75% of our expenses are spent on either wages and benefits and utilities. Those are our two biggest, and being a service-based business, that's where our wages are kind of the biggest, and that's what happens when you have a service-based business. So when we're looking at those labor costs at 64%, here are the kind of a breakdown. We have 4 divisions with 33 different departments, 92 unique positions for our employees. We have, at the current time, 489 employees with 197 full-time and 292 part-time or seasonal employees, and approximately 618,000 hours worked annually. And we're, have people here 24/7, 365. It's a lot of hours to cover. And hours by these different divisions or cost centers, 44% are in golf, 33% in recreation, 17% in general and administrative hours, and then 6% at the sports pavilion. Over the years, our budgeted FTE trend, full-time equivalents, we've gone from 322 to the budget this year. We're looking for 297. That is a 25 less FTEs than we've had since 2021. And that equates to about 35 less employees. So we are having efficiencies in our employees, and we're getting the same work done or more with less employees. This goes over our employee distribution. We have 41 salaried employees that include managers, supervisors, and just regular salary employees, which is about 8% of our workforce. We have full-time hourly at 156 and part-time hourly 119, and then minimum wage employees 173. As a member of the Employers Council, every year we're able to benchmark our wages, current wages, against these other over 207 other organizations turn in their wages and publish these. And these are Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. And our average wages are 17% below their average wage for all these categories. We put all our different pay grades are along the bottom there. There's different job positions in each of these pay grades, but we took the average of all those, put them on this chart, and overall we're 17% below average wage. So we are keeping our wages in check with these other businesses. So as we've talked about those, we'll go over some of the notables in this budget, wages and benefits. This budget includes merit wage increase that would go into effect January 25. That would be up to 3% based on the employee evaluations. This also would help cover wage adjustments for different job description changing, shifts in work responsibilities. We have 4 FTEs added to this budget. The minimum wage increase, we've budgeted at $1 an hour. That's mandated by the state, and we won't know that amount until May. Workers' comp insurance, we have budgeted a 35% increase. That is, we just did get our renewal on workers' comp, and that's what it was in February. So we'll put that into the budget. And then the health insurance increase, we renew in January. We've put a 15% increase. This year in January, we were able to make some moves, and we only had a 5% increase in the health insurance. But on average, over the past few years, 15% has been what the increase has been. So looking at our other operating expenses, our managers do a great job of trying to do cost management and efficiencies. We look at facilities and equipment resources analysis through our reserve study, and Pete Finelli and then the managers look at that almost weekly of different things that are in the reserve study and check to see what can be pushed out, what needs to be repaired for the next year or replaced. We have implemented lots of employee safety programs. We do bidding and comparative pricing. Anything over $5,000, we have to have 3 bids or 3 quotes on before we make a purchase. We look at bulk pricing. Is there a way we can save money by buying things in that we're going to need anyway, buy it in bulk, and using different multiple vendors to keep prices low. Employee training and best practices, process improvements. If we find something that's working in one of the departments, we try to move it to other departments if we can, move it, implement it across all of the divisions. And then technology enhancement, if there's anything that we can do that technology can improve and help us be more efficient, we try to implement those items also. So some of the other expense notables in this budget, overall, we have a 4% operating expense increase, non-payroll items, $126,000 increase in utilities, which is about 5%. Repairs and maintenance, there's several different items, $75,000 in parking lot seal and stripes that we didn't have in our current budget for this year. Different parking lots need to be done every 5 years. $31,000 in cart path and walkway repairs, and then $15,000 in hardwoods, resealing and surfacing at social hall, racquetball, ping pong, wherever we have hardwoods. Then we also have an $89,000 increase in property and casualty, which was a 15% increase. I'm sure everybody's seen their insurance bills going up for auto and home, and that affects the association as well. We have $42,000 for security cameras and DVRs at our different locations. We do have a $42,000 reduction in telephone expenses due to an upgrade that they're doing in our capital project. If that gets approved, being able to remove some of our T1 lines. So to cover these operating expense increases, the proposed fees in this budget is increasing annual member dues, $30 a year from $540 to $570, which is 5.6% increase. Golf, we're budgeting at 320,000 rounds, and then we'll be, for non-member, we're going to align the guest and public rates, which was a recommendation from the golf committee, which will be a $6 to $8 increase during peak and transition, and then a $2 increase in the summer season, with the public card going from $1,575 to $1,600. For member golf rates, $2 increase in peak season, $1 increase in summer and transition seasons, and then also increasing the unlimited cards for $3,600 to $3,800, and the Twilight card from $1,399 to $1,500. And then we're also going to put an increase in for the employee golf from $12 a round to $15 a round during peak and prime season. For bowling, we're going to budget 291,000 bowling lines. They're going to put in a new rate for non-resident, non-league, which would be a public rate of $4.50 a line, and adding 8 tournaments to bring in some extra revenue on days that aren't busy. For APFs, we're proposing a $200 increase from $5,000 to $5,200, and we're budgeting 1,100 title transfers, which will generate about $5.7 million total for all APF fees. So getting into some of the actual total line items, we have projected 2024 up there, budgeted 2025. For all wages, the variance would be 6% increase for wages and benefits. And then for all other operating expenses, a 5% increase from projected to our budget for next year. For revenues, we're budgeting a 5% overall increase. With these budgeted increases, our estimated reserve fund allocation would be a little $1,157,374. We're projecting this year to be $1,001,015. That going from our membership dues right into the reserve fund. That would be an estimated reserve fund allocation of 7.53% of your member dues. And then on the capital-related side, you can see the asset preservation fees budget for 2025 of $5,770,624, the reserve fund allocation of $1,157,374, and our investment income of $945,403. That would directly go into our reserve fund. Now I'm going to turn it over to Carl Wellham to go over the capital budget.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you. Thank you for showing up this evening. It's my pleasure to be able to share our FY 24-25 proposed capital budget. Some notes that I have between July 1st of 23 and September 1st of 2023 is basically the beginning stage of creating the next year's budget. We reviewed all potential new and repair and replacement capital. New capital consists of ideas coming from our clubs, our community members, our governing board, our staff. New is a direct impact yearly on our capital budget from our reserve funds. R&R, the benefit of R&R is our reserve funds already projected and planned and saved for the year that the R&R replacement comes due. If you didn't know this, we determined $5.5 million of the initial $16.5 million list during that July 1st, 2023 and September 1st, 2023 discussionary period over the summer before we came to the first committees in September. We had a very large task ahead of us to determine if R&R capital items were truly needed, what could be deferred to a future year in a better alignment. Remember that R&R, kicking the can, doesn't change anything. These are ICE assets that we own, and at some point they do have to be replaced. So it doesn't truly go away, but we do have strategic ways of being able to make a determination of whether this room's carpet should happen in this budget or possibly next year or the following and get the most useful life out of this asset. So we deferred to the miscellaneous future years $5.2 million and eliminated $362,000 of items or ideas that we deemed weren't necessary at all. And before you today, you have the proposed capital items from the governing board to approve, totaling $10.9 million. These are the amounts that we discussed and determined over the summer, July 1st, 23 to September 1st of 23. We had deferrals in golf maintenance, landscaping, recreation, golf ops, and those deferrals came to $5,164,000. We eliminated $361,970, and overall total savings either distributed over future years or eliminated for $5,500,000. The slides that you're going to see next are the actual proposed capital projects in this year's budget for $10.9 million. We are going to talk about new items, new capital, repair and replacement capital, and some allowances. In the new capital, we start off with the Sports Pavilion Lizard Acres Barroom renovation and equipment for $225,000. This project involves the items that you see in the bullet points for a new interior, walk-up point of sales areas, maintaining events and items inside the Sports Pavilion for Wii bowling, darts. Oh, I apologize. My shaky hand. Modifying lights, new equipment for the bar, and an expanded bar area. I'll discuss some of these projects that I share with you today that the governing board or committees have made comment on, and give you a little bit of an idea where we stand today in the budgeting process. Moving on, we've proposed a library expansion renovation and need design and architectural dollars to make those plans of fruition if the governing board decides. That would be plans and engineering for interior and exterior renovations and an addition, design documents so that we could produce 60% plans and formulate an actual cost for future ideas for a library renovation and expansion. We have $67,500 allocated for a Beardsley Park fence. This is also a new project. That fence would allow us to enclose the Beardsley Park, provide event controls, eliminate the fact that staff on a monthly basis has to tear down and put up a snow fence that's kind of unsightly. It has to be replaced on a yearly basis due to the up and down progress of installing zip ties around metal posts, and it would permanently enclose and beautify the park. We've introduced R.H. Johnson tractor and backhoe for $55,000. This would help facilities maintenance. As seen in the photo, this is exactly the tractor that we're looking for. It would help us with a rapid response time, reducing facilities maintenance opportunities for rental, speed up their time frame for being able to make repairs, and it eliminates the costly rentals of $400 per day on average when we do have issues come up in the community. And this reduces our need also for subcontractor use. Moving over to another new project, the Kuntz Tennis Facility renovation, similar to the library. This $50,000 request is also for architectural documents and engineering so that we can make future plans on what is the cost for renovating the Kuntz facility. There's been plenty of talk over the last few months on how that should happen. None of these fees, whether it be for the library or Kuntz, are just absolute expenses, but it does give us the opportunity to hire an architect for a certain starting fee, to have a certain conversation that leads us to be able to do research and get to the ultimate ability to have a set of plans to have a cost analysis done by vendors. Other new capital items under $50K include Metal Shop Climate Tech for $36,000, the Palm Ridge Facility Monitor Station, $30,000, the R.H. Johnson Flatbed Trailer for our forklift, $19,000, Palm Ridge Activity Center restroom partitions, $13,000, the Desert Trails Pro Shop flagpole, Echo Mesa flagpole, and Trail Ridge flagpole for $9,000 apiece, and the Kuntz Leather Room exhaust system upgrade for $7,500, and the Palm Ridge Swim and Fitness restroom partitions. I mentioned a moment ago that some of these items that are in the new category have come under much discussion over the last 7 months. And currently, some of our committees have recommended to the governing board that maybe the Kuntz Tennis Facility, $50,000, the library expansion renovation for $100,000, and the Lizard Acres Bar Room, $225,000, should be deferred. This is just information so that you are not confused by the fact that we still bring these presentations, because this is a proposed budget for ultimately the governing board to make a decision on. My next area is repair and replacement. Starting off with the largest dollar item is Kuntz outfield fence replacement for $495,000. This is a repair and replacement item. We've had, again, much discussion on this fence. Can it last a few more years? The only things that happen from moving repair and replacement items to a future year is that you have the potential for inflation to catch you, and it comes at a higher cost. But when you weigh these things against all the other costs of a budget, if that's the decision that's made, then it must be right, and we would defer this to possibly the year that the infield turf would be replaced. But otherwise, if it's approved, we have 525 linear feet of 24-foot tall fence to be replaced. And forgive me, I'm just getting over a cold, so. Fence posts have been broken, they have been repaired. There is no safety concerns on this fence, even though we've had a lot of discussion about it. Overall, the fence is tattered, it's met its useful life, and that the governing board will make a good decision on whether it moves forward. Silvercraft remodel, millwork and countertops, $375,000. This is a full room remodel. Primarily, the R&R portion of this is about countertops and cabinets. When we do remodels for craft rooms, there's a lot of other components so that we don't have to disturb the club in a future year. This plan proposes to repaint the room. You'll see lower part of the slide includes new LVT flooring. It's also a repair and replacement item for $23,850, and new ceiling grid and sprinkler head replacement. Facilities maintenance is assisting me in doing some room modifications to make an overall beautiful remodeled room for the Silvercraft Club. Palm Ridge outdoor pool deck replacement. This project and also the interior, our rubber deck, our replacements of our concrete deck surfaces with a rubber deck, as you've seen at Kuntz and R.H. Johnson. And it replaces approximately 13,000 square foot of existing deck with the EDPM colorized rubber. It is a safer deck. It does not create us any efficiencies in our cleaning, useful life. The deck is under the same conditions as concrete surfaces or cool deck that we've used years ago, but the environment of safety, the rubber deck is cool, and so far I think it's done us a great benefit on extending the life of our decks of our pool areas. The Palm Ridge Rec Center Activities Aquatics Building flat roof restoration. All of the roof restorations that I'll share with you today are for the purpose of extending the useful life of our roofs. Our roofs have a useful life, and we actually track the full replacement of a roof in a future year category. But every time that we have the ability to restore a roof, it extends our warranty by 15 years and or 10 years, and generally we get anywhere from 12 to 15 years out of that roof cycle. Every time we have that opportunity, we haven't gone into the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of actually having to peel back the roofing system and do a full replacement and have a closure of that building. R.H. Townsend tennis facility courts resurface. We recently had this project brought to our attention through the Properties Committee. The governing board has accepted those recommendations and asked for this project to be put on our capital project list. So for $160,000, the determination to resurface all the courts 1 through 16. This project technically was due 2 years ago. Through our due diligence of walking the surfaces and trying to get an extra extended couple years of life, we were hoping for one more, but it has come evident due to the desanding of those courts that this coming fiscal year 24-25 is the best year to do the resurface. Palm Ridge Fitness Center cardio equipment, $159,000. If you're not aware, every 5 years, our fitness rooms get a cardio fitness system replacement. And on the 5th year, obviously we don't have 5 rec centers. We have a year of pause. So approximately 26 pieces over the last 2 years. We've done R.H. Johnson. This last 23-24 fiscal year, we did Beardsley, and Palm Ridge is next. In the same year, we'll also be doing the Palm Ridge strength equipment, which will be coming up in a moment. R.H. Johnson admin flat roof restoration, same as I discussed before, $140,000 to restore our roof and maintain the 10-year warranty on that building. The rec center's NEC phone system upgrade, $130,000. This phone upgrade of system technology gives us the opportunity to move phones onto a new SD-WAN system infrastructure, and it upgrades and saves us $7,000 per month in our fees of that current system. The return on investment for this project is 18 months. As I mentioned before, the Palm Ridge indoor pool deck surface replacement would go hand in hand if approved. I would do the outdoor pool first, and then the indoor pool after a current project that we already have approved of doing the new wainscoting in this spring. This replaces 4,200 square foot of existing deck and also would be the rubber surface. Palm Ridge fitness strength equipment. Our equipment is over 20 years old. Strength equipment doesn't follow the 5-year useful life. We try to get a minimum of 20 years. Most of our equipment is older than 20 years if it hasn't been replaced in the last few years already. Palm Ridge has met its useful life beyond 20, and the manufacturer has notified Russ Boston and I that they are no longer supporting any parts and pieces for that equipment as it goes down. So we are including that in this budget along with the cardio equipment. R.H. Johnson Fitness Edition, small maintenance pool storage area, another roof extension of warranty and restoration for $54,781. An R.H. Johnson pickup truck for $54,573 for facilities maintenance department. Recreation HVAC units, Coons 5 units, $51,584. R.H. Johnson Library 5 units for $43,000. R.H. Johnson 3 units in another location, $38,480. And Coons 1 unit, $79,004. And these items here are the items under $50,000, and they include 3 servers for our information technology department, $29,000. The Beardsley Fitness Room flooring, $37,585. Admin Finance Department cubicle replacement, $31,000. Palm Ridge Summit Hall hardwoods, $24,000. Palm Ridge pickleball courts resurface, $26,500. That's for courts 1 through 10. R.H. Johnson Social Hall flat roof restore area, another warranty upgrade and restoration for over the social hall, $25,000. Landscaping lawn bowl green rollers, $15,000. R.H. Johnson pickleball courts resurface 1 through 8, $20,000. Coons Craft Rooms 3, 4, and 5. Chairs, we have some old heavy chairs that the overwhelming comments from our member use is we're an average age of 74 years old. We have 200 plus chairs, and these chairs are very heavy for our members. They have certainly met their useful life. In fact, they're excellent chairs. They're just darn heavy, and we're trying to help our community out. We're going to replace those chairs for $18,000. Admin, we have member services awning replacement out here in the courtyard for $9,500. The R.H. Johnson pickleball facility will also get windscreen replacements if approved for $15,000. We need auto scrubbers for these new rubber decks, and R.H. Johnson has one for $13,250. Palm Ridge pickleball facility shade fabric replacement. The central social areas shade fabric is ripped, $9,000. And the Palm Ridge pool spa heater replacement. Plan for next year, $7,500. Moving into a parking lot project, Desert Trails Pro Shop parking lot asphalt replacement for $135,000. After this project of tearing out all the asphalt mill and replacement, the only parking lot left is Stardust. And that is, I think, determined for 3 years out. And then the final category beyond new, repair and replacement is our allowances. When unexpected things happen. Primarily, the unexpected things that happen are emergencies, such as a well pump replacement that goes out. But we do have discussions throughout our year that involve the opportunity to either make a beneficial move from one capital year out to earlier and an expenditure within the governing board or general manager signing allowance and make an improvement. An example of that would have been during the bowling lanes replacement this summer. The flooring was affected in front of the bowling lanes. It only needed 1 more year of useful life, but because the place was already shut down, we determined to move that into the same project time frame and got that done as an efficiency. ADA compliance upgrades and unexpected facility improvements are in this $420,000 category. I thank you for all the opportunities of the past, all the approvals that we've done for the last 7 years and what accounting shared to you of what we've done in improvements, the things that they're about to say here in a few moments of, you know, how much money we've done, the $40 million, and yet our reserve funds stay virtually the same place and within our 40% fully funded balance. I hope this was good information for you to make good decisions and support keeping the facilities looking great and new projects as well. Thank you, everyone. Todd Patty is going to cover what I just did for golf.
All right, good evening. Like Carl said, I'm going to review the capital budget portion for the Environmental Services Department, which is golf maintenance and landscape maintenance. So we'll start with our equipment replacement program plan for this upcoming year in golf maintenance. As you can see, we have 19 units scheduled for replacement this year, and it varies between greens mowers, rough mowers, fairway aerifiers, fertigation systems for fertilizing the golf course, bank mowers, greens rollers, turf vacuums, and all that for $992,838. Now this is all equipment that we use on a daily basis to maintain our 7 golf courses. 13 vehicles scheduled for replacement this year, 11 light and heavy duty utility vehicles, and again, those are used every day for the guys to get around and do their jobs on the golf courses. We have 1 pickup truck for transportation, and then we have 1 dump truck, and that's shared equipment. We have a list of shared equipment between the 7 golf courses, and that's just where if somebody needs it on their golf course, we usually house it over at Echo Mesa. So if Deer Valley needs a dump truck for top dressing, they'll come over and pick that up. So that's for $357,689. And then we delayed the purchase of 4 units for a total of $161,560. Now, this is a common practice that we do during the budget process. We review the reserve study every year, and we look and see if they, in fact, need to be replaced. Now, if there's an item that doesn't need to be replaced, we'll push it out to the next year or even beyond. So we had that for $161,000, and then total equipment and replacement of $1.3 million. That breaks out to be about $192,000 per golf course. You divide that out for the 7. And just a summary of the equipment replacement, you can see I've highlighted a Rayco-Vac, Toro Rayco-Vac, 29 years. We really got a lot of use out of that one, so that is up for replacement. And again, these are all on the reserve study. The average age of our replacement equipment is 10.5 years, and I can tell you we're getting well beyond useful life out of our equipment, and that's a credit to our mechanics. They have such a solid program to keep our equipment up and running and in good shape. So I really credit them for getting that 10.5 years. And then our summary of the vehicle replacement, average age, 13.8 years on that. And I did note that Isuzu pickup truck or dump truck up there at 30 years. It's got a lot of miles on it. And then 31 years for that Ford F-50 pickup. I don't know how many miles that has on it, but I would imagine it's quite a few. And I think Carl mentioned this in his presentation. We have a greens roller for landscape maintenance, and that's used over at the lawn bowl greens, and that's used almost every day on at least one of the courts that we get ready for the members over there. Again, it's on the reserve study up for replacement. And then I'd like to know that we did delay the purchase of 1 unit and deleted 2 units out of the reserve study this year in landscape maintenance. We had 2 dump trailers that were scheduled, and we just went ahead and just removed those. With our staff levels being down right now, we just don't need those. And then we have hired an outsourced company, and they have those that kind of equipment, so we no longer need that. So we removed those out of the reserve study. And then utility cart replacement for landscape maintenance at $56,000. 1 heavy-duty utility cart replaces 12-year-old Workman. It does need a new motor. It needs some other repairs, but that's the biggest repair item on that, and that's $38,000 on that. And then 1 club car carryall, street legal for transportation, and it also needs a motor as well. And then rental cart replacement, and this is in the golf operations department. That breaks out to be $129,000 for the 20 carts that we're replacing. That's about $6,400 per unit on the rental carts, and these are used for outside play and guest play. All right, on to our big project, Echo Mesa irrigation and turf reduction, and this is identical to the project that we did over at Grandview last summer. It's just scaled back quite a bit. You know, we removed about 45 acres of turf over at Grandview. This year, we're looking at about 18 acres over at Echo Mesa. It's an executive golf course, so it's much smaller than what we had over at Grandview. We're looking at a proposed start date of April 7th of next year. And then I just wanted to put this up there. This is just a cost comparison between the Grandview project and the Echo Mesa project in 2022 versus 2024. And you can see the irrigation cost per acre is about $10,000 more now than what we did over at Grandview. And then the cost of landscape maintenance is about $6,000 more per acre. And that's the rock, that's the plants, the trees, the drip line, everything that goes into that. Rainbird rotors are the irrigation heads. You can see that those have gone up from $238 to $269, so $30 increase per head. Now we can lock that price in, so that's a good thing. Decomposed granite. This is really based on fuel charges, you know, the price of diesel fuel. So as that goes up, the price of decomposed granite goes up because we have a number of dump trucks that come into the property to bring in that material. So they're going to cost us for that fuel. So Grandview, we had $55.37 per ton. Echo Mesa, we're looking at $74.10 and $18.73 per ton increase with the Echo Mesa project. And then this is just the cost review. We did put this out to bid to 3 vendors, Heritage, Landscapes Unlimited, and Wadsworth. And you can see Wadsworth came in a low bid at just over $5 million. So total project cost with low bid with Wadsworth, you can see the design team, pump station is included in this, pump station connection, and also the transfer line connection that helps feed the other golf courses in the event that a well pump goes down. We can move water around from golf course to golf course. So this is a very important connection. So our total project cost is $5.5 million for the Echo Mesa project, and that's phase 2. Now we've completed everything in phase 1, which is in the current budget and has been funded. We have completed all that. I believe we are about $30,000 under budget on that phase 1. I believe we had about $205,000 budgeted for that. So that was all the design plans and all the staking and those kind of things in phase 1. So that's been completed. And like I said, we were about $30,000 under in phase 1. So. And then I just want to just go over, we have a 5-year plan in golf course maintenance. And you can see starting this year, Pebblebrook and Stardust are the 2 courses that are closed this year, regulation and executive course. And we've been doing this for years, and it's very effective. It allows the golf courses to rest a little bit, and then we can do a lot of projects. Small in-house projects is what we're looking at this year at Pebblebrook and Stardust. Most of it's going to involve trees, tree replacement, tree removal. We have some cart path seal coating that we'd like to do at those golf courses while we're closed, right before overseeding. And then Trail Bridge, shoreline hardscape on number 3. And then I won't go through all these, but I'd say 60% of these projects are conservation, water conservation related, which is very important nowadays to do that. So, and you can see we have some big irrigation projects in there, Stardust Phase 1 in 26, and then we do the actual project of new irrigation system and putting in desert landscape over there in 2027. In 2028, Pebblebrook will do the Phase 1, which is the planning phase of the irrigation project. And in the following year, 2029, we will do the major project, irrigation and turf reduction. And now I'm going to turn it over to Pete, and he'll talk about the reserve study a little bit.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pete Finelli. I'm the reserve analyst for the rec centers here. Appreciate y'all coming out. And Cliff does a wonderful job of bringing all these together with the speakers that we've had tonight. And a lot of times he comments that the fully funded balance, it's an acronym that maybe a lot of people don't understand, but it really is the culmination of all the things you're hearing tonight. What do we bring in? How do we run our operations? And what do we spend on capital? And so we try to always envision our status in 5-year lookouts to determine the practicality of what we're spending. So we give good information to our governing board to make good decisions. But I do want to kind of stop for a second, and I wrote these down, so I'm going to put my glasses on, but a lot of people don't realize just how vast this place really is. There's 4 rec center campuses, there's 7 golf courses, there's libraries, sports pavilion. Think about what you hear every once in a while about 1,200 line items, and individually that doesn't sound all that ominous, but each one of those items is a $5,000 or more spend, so we're also monitoring anything underneath that, so cleaning equipment and all kinds of stuff to support the operations. But just strictly from a capital, just envision for a second your own house and thinking that if you had to manage that, we're thinking about these all the time. We have roofs at every one of our buildings, 50 plus buildings, flooring for all of those. Got to keep them cold or hot, no HVACs. Got to put in parking lots, sometimes $1 million projects. What about lighting? What about fencing? Now go to the club rooms, fit them out, but sometimes they need new cabinets. Those are sometimes, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have a beautiful theater. Everything's beautiful. A wonderful theater. Sports amenities all over the place. Pickleball, tennis, bocce, lawn bowling, hard courts, bowling in this pavilion, softball. And then everybody's favorite, you got 4 or 5 pools in each one of those. Now we switch over to golf. Irrigation systems costing millions of dollars. All golf equipment. Most courses have upwards of 50 individual items, golf equipment alone, and then add the vehicles. Maintenance equipment, cleaning equipment, pumps for all those courses. Russ's World, heaters, boilers, the library, IT, fitness equipment, awnings, goes on and on and on. And, I think we've got some really fabulous piece of equipment, and the staff around here, I think, does an absolutely marvelous job of keeping those identified 1,200 items in good order. And so now how do we fund that? Well, the bottom line is what I want to focus on first, a second from the bottom. In the budget year, as Carl alluded to, currently that aggregates just under 11 billion. Of course, the biggest item in there is about half of it is for the Echo Mesa irrigation and deturfing project. But if you go to the right, there, that 10,000,009 to the 13 aggregates to about $49 million. Within that, these about 41 million is earmarked because the governing board ultimately has to approve that. But the reserve study will say that approximately 41 million is coming due at the timetable for replacement, at least by its normal projected age. Behind that, and you're going to hear a lot about this, is about $1.8 million each year of essentially unidentified dollars for allowances, which are more the unexpected, but also you saw Terry allude to that one of the charters of any budget is also keep your association vibrant. You have to just sometimes invest new capital to get there. So we placehold, if you will, about $1.4 million or roughly $7 billion over the course of the next 5 years to allow the governing board to possibly advance things that don't already exist. And you're hearing some of those within some of the planning dollars that were brought up under new by Carl. But we build that all into one big pot. And so how do we fund that? That's 49 million, it's a lot of money. Well, the biggest piece is the asset preservation fees. And currently that aggregates to about 33 million over the next 5 years. The roughly $27 million reserve fund, current yield on mostly bonds is around 4%. So it's earning just by interest reinfused of about a little less than $1 million a year. And by the way, all of these are by policy designated to go to the reserve fund, not out of operations. It's coming out of the reserve fund policies. And so the last one is what Terry was alluded to, is that roughly about 7.5% of your dues runs through all the operating expenses. You get golf revenues, you get bowling revenues, but the biggest pieces are membership dues in golf. And generally speaking, we get about $1.1 million, $1.3 million, $1.5 million. It varies, that the policy says needs to infuse into the reserve fund. So though the point that Cliff makes, and I think it's a really important one, is that the APFs of 33 million and then take another 4 for the investment income, that still falls short of that 49 million. So where would all those monies come from? Well, you'd be depleting the reserve fund really rapidly if you didn't have some of your funds coming out of operations. And it's natural, as I've heard many times tonight, for people to not want to pay more dues or raise the rates on fees and stuff like that. But the reality is if you don't have that, then the reserve fund is going to suffer. So it's an important piece that we want to keep reminding that your dues does have an important place in the reserve fund allocation. So how healthy are we? You heard, I think it was Carl alluded to the 40% by policy minimum balance. FFB essentially is all those 40 items that I just mentioned earlier, times 50 in some, times 7 in some places, but generally speaking, it aggregates to just about $100 million of assets that we track. And so they all don't come due at one time. But when we estimate that any one given time, i.e. at the end of this fiscal year, we think that about $59 million needs to be in the bank to fully fund all those replacements. Well, they don't come all due at the same time. So what is your balance at any given time? And right now, we're projecting to be roughly about 29 million at the end of this fiscal year. So simple division of that balance into the FFB gives you your FFB percent. And a healthy organization, generally speaking, is considered to be healthy when it's at least 40%, which is our policy, but the acceptable range is usually between 40 and 70%. So we're in very good shape. And most importantly, we look out 5 years to not allow for any peaks and valleys. One of the most important things to note is that we're going to be spending in that 49 million, roughly on 21 million or so just on irrigation projects. And while none of us really want to make that kind of expenditure, it's also important to note that once you've made that expenditure, you're going to get a ton of operational improvements from the most important being compliant with the Department of Water, but equally, some of the new technology is lasting roughly 60, 70 years on the main lines, when in the past, those would be lucky to make 30 years. So you're spending money now, but you're going to be saving a considerable amount on future year infusion. So the simple way I can say that is, you got a $3 million irrigation project, took 30 years to do it, you essentially want to keep yourself prepared to replace it by putting $100,000 away every year. But if you're dividing that by 60 years, you're going to have to put 50,000 away. So it's sometimes very important to make those judgments and spend the money and get it done. Todd didn't refer to this, but he brought it up a few days ago, that had the Grandview project been done at the same rates that he applied in his comparison for Echo Mesa, it would have been almost $2 million more. So sometimes getting it done real time is really smart money spent. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. One last thing before we go to questions from the audience. We do have, as federal and state mandates for minimum wage and wages. One of them that is kind of looming over us right now is an $18 initiative per hour for minimum wage. The timeline on this right now, it is out for signatures right now, and those signatures on those proposal has to be turned in by July 3rd to the Secretary of State. If those that initiative receives all the signatures, it's approximately 256,000, and they're validated, then that initiative for $18 an hour would go onto the November ballot. So, and then on November, with the vote from the state, we would know whether that would go into effect in January. So with that in mind, based on how many employees that we have, the impacts of $18 an hour would impact approximately 455 of our 489 positions that we have. And the amount for that for the 6 months for this budget, because it would be in January, would be $825,000 additional expense to us. The Budget and Finance Committee kind of tasked operations with coming up with some contingency plan for that, because we do not have that in our budget at the moment. We came back with, we would propose holding off on $375,000 in new capital projects. These contingencies would be on a delay or eliminate. We would delay until we know it gets on the ballot. We would delay until we know if it passes. Or if it does pass in November, then these items would be just eliminated from our budget for the next year. 375 in new capital projects that we would delay or eliminate. Allowances, the 420, we would only use for emergencies only. Well pump goes out, HVAC, something that has to be replaced. Otherwise, we would hold off on budget allowance money. And then in our operating expense, we found a few projects that we could defer for $100,000. That would include the parking lot seal and stripes, and then also the golf cart repairs. So with that, right now our budget currently returns a FFB percentage of 46%. If the 18-hour goes through, an impact of 825,000, that would lower our FFB percent to 45%. And then with this contingency plan, we would, if we held, we would move it back to the 46%. So we would still stay at our 46% FFB percentage, which in the reserve study or reserve fund. Get a few minutes, we'll get the rest of the management team up here, and then you can come up and ask questions, and we'll have people to answer.
Folks, if you come to the mic, please state your name and rec card number. And we'd love to take some questions.
My name is Alan Garland. I'm 128145. I ask a question because I hate you to come all the way out here and do all this work and nobody asks a question. You think, gee, you should have gone and listened to the music over on the green or something. But I have a question. It's kind of, I think someone might have answered it, maybe I don't remember. But if we were to add up all of the projects that we have to do over the number of years to comply with the state regulation about how much water golf courses use and stuff like that, how many millions would that be?
For how many gallons of water we use on our golf courses? Is that? I'm sorry.
We're removing greenscape, replacing it with desert habitat. We're changing the sprinkler systems, etc., on the various golf courses. We've got 7 of them. We've done some don't need much, some need a lot more. So my question was, what would the capital expenditure be for all of those courses together if we added them all up? Just curious.
To do a total renovation like what we're doing over.
Yep,
Yeah.
for all of them.
Well, I think we're looking at, almost $7 million over at Grandview. We're looking at $5 million for the Echo Mesa project, and I think we could easily add 10-15% onto those as we go forward. So roughly $8-9 million per golf course when it's all said and done. Now, I'd like to point out we have our 3 newest golf courses, Deer Valley Desert Trails and Trail Ridge, are already in compliance with the amount of turf that they have over there. So we wouldn't have to do any desert renovation or any renovation on for the desert. We would have to replace the irrigation system. So it would be a little bit less, but still, we're probably looking at $6, $7, $8 million on those projects, especially as we get out further into 2029 and then beyond. Yeah, we could be up there, $8-9 million.
So,
of course,
in round numbers, my guess is somewhere in the $40 to $50 million range by the time we're done, over a period of, I don't know how many years, 6-7 years.
yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Yep.
Just curious. I thought it was a big number. I thought, gee. Well, as long as I'm asking weird questions, I had this, I'm not a pickleballer, so don't think I'm a hidden pickleballer person here, but let's say that we have been talking about a strategic plan for Sun City West. And let's say that over the looking ahead, people retire earlier, they come and live here longer. And as you know, pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in not only the United States, but anywhere in North America and probably other countries too. Let's say that the pickleballer said, gee, what we really need is a 10-court indoor air-conditioned building to play pickleball because we're going to live here year-round and we want to play in the summer. What would that cost?
Well, that wouldn't be surprising because that idea has already been brought up multiple times. A structure like that would be easily in the $5 to $10 million range. Is it reasonable? You know, other places have, such as Sun City, have an indoor court system, it's partially open air. The suggested idea of that has come to our attention before and asked in a very similar way, but that's the reality of it. I mean, you know, building costs are anywhere from $350 to $450 per square foot for a building these days. You know, you can find efficiencies depending on what the structure looks like, how value engineered, how bland or, you know, exciting you make it. Excitement comes with cost, so that's a reasonable expectation for any expansion that we have. So I hope that helps.
Jim Scott, 133818-1 and -2. I have rental properties. On your minimum wage, on the employees being affected, I think I can't remember the numbers, but it was like 400 and some odd employees are affected by the minimum wage. So is that like all of those folks are minimum wage? I don't understand how that.
There we go. So not all of those folks are minimum wage. However, a fair bulk of our employees are at the minimum wage level at this point. What it does is it causes wage compression. So once you move minimum wage up to 18, then we need to look at and adjust employees in the other grade levels.
Okay. So it's going to raise all boats.
It sure could, yes.
All right. On the budget, geez Louise, that microphone doesn't work nearly as good during the investment club meeting. Monday nights at 6:30, by the way. Here. On the budget for next year, with the raising of the AP fee and the dues proposed, those items being proposed to be increased does not include the minimum wage increase?
Well, the current proposed budget would just include we have $1 per hour for minimum wage included in the budget.
Right.
But if it would do the 18, that would not be in this budget, so that's where
Right.
that contingency plan would come into
Right.
place.
So next year we could pretty much expect more.
More, yeah.
Nice.
I was going to say that, you know, the state regulates what our minimum wage is, and so we do try to budget for that on a bit of a higher side each year, because we do expect that it is going to go up each year.
Gotcha. Okay. We have a lot of good data, but of all of the meetings that I've watched and I've attended, I have not seen any metrics of any sort with Club Tracker. Does that program provide any metrics where we can measure attendance and measure, you know, the golf, what you know, the time ranges of our Echo Mesa and yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't measure golf per se. That's on a different system. That's through our TEI system. It was set up to measure the check-ins for the club usage at the different facilities for the charter clubs. It does provide that, and Casey's team does provide those numbers to the clubs. However, staff's taken a step back and looked at We do have some clubs that use TEI, so if they are on a facility, say they're using the swimming pool, they were checked on in through our regular system. So we're looking at merging those two systems and providing one reporting tool because there's some confusion out there. So we're modifying that. We'll come up with some clean system like that, and that's part of the next year's goals. But yeah, the data's been used for quite a while and given to the clubs, and I think some of it was used in the presentation just the other day with pickleball and tennis. So it's out there, it's used on a regular basis.
So along with the two systems, there's technically a third system, the paper system over at Liberty.
Yes.
You guys, nobody inputs that data, I
Yes,
take it.
we
Oh, you
do.
do? You guys, somebody takes those sheets and inputs the, and
Yep.
so we can see,
The leads, good question. Thank you actually for bringing this up. The leads, send that over to Tim Peterson, who kind of does a lot of the communication with all the clubs for Club Track. And he does report, he scans those and send those to each, both tennis and pickleball, so they can keep those accounted for as well. So tennis gets their information and pickleball gets their information.
but they just scan it. Nobody really puts it into a
No.
spreadsheet and we can see the time of usage during,
Correct.
you know, hours of a given day of, you know, I'm a pickleball player, but I'm going to poke on the pickleball players. We don't really know the usage by hour and how many,
No.
right? Okay,
No,
'cause
and
nobody
SANS,
enters
there's
it.
no tracking,
Okay.
no computer tracking at SANS, unfortunately. So we do
Oh,
rely.
SANS, my bad. I get those two confused. Yes.
Yeah, Liberty has Club Track.
They have it, yes,
Mhm.
yes, okay. And then one final question, I think somebody else is up to bat. What is our bylaw minimum fund requirement for the reserves?
It's a percentage,
Yeah,
and that's 40%.
40, 40? Okay, we're kind of flirting with it, but okay. Thank you.
Debbie Johnson, 130208. Regardless of the $18 an hour minimum wage initiative, how that turns out, I'm wondering if there's been any analysis or if there's any plans for analysis regarding usage of our recreation centers. For instance, we have 4 recreation centers that have pools, correct? And those, all 4 of those are open from 6 till 9. So if there would be some kind of analysis done to see how many people are utilizing each one, that maybe we could reduce some of the hours by saying, okay, this one's closed on, you know, this day from this time to this time, because there's nobody there, and push people to other recreation centers.
It's a very good question, and right now we are an amenity offering, service providing organization that I think all of our membership has become quite comfortable, enjoys. We're happy to provide that. It does take a lot of a labor source and a lot of hours. But the reality is, if we get to this place of $18 an hour minimum wage, the discussions that you're offering that we should consider, we have that data. We know exactly how many hours we work. We know exactly how many events we have and what people are required to cover those things. Our hours operations for a stained glass club, all of our clubs. We have all that data. But $18 an hour is going to drive a discussion on how we operate going forward. That is a reality. And it might affect hours of operation. It might force us to do different kinds of efficiencies. It might force a labor reduction due to a reduction in hours of use. We want to avoid that at all costs. You know, we certainly don't want an $18 an hour wage increase. But those are the realities, and those will be the discussions we'll be having in the near future if that's where we get to.
Well, I'm not talking about taking amenities away. I'm saying that you're pushing the people, instead of saying, go to Kuntz, you're pushing people to go to R.H. Johnson or Palm Ridge, for instance.
I totally understand. Yep. I mean, if there was an efficiency that really made sense about having on one particular day 3 pools open as opposed to 4, or, you know, just spreading the enjoyment of what we have in our 4 rec centers equally, but more efficiently, we will have those difficult discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, just to add to that, it was kind of what I said in the beginning. If we ran this place like a true business, it would be run much differently. We're not a true business with the bottom line as the sole, you know, governor. It is as Carl said, in amenities. We're here, we're a service organization for the residents. It's that balance with the dues and the services and which one gives. And as he said, that $18 may be that one that pushes it. But that's not to say that we haven't come forward with proposals that have been enacted with curtailing of hours here. And we've done that in the past. And usually what we see is, yeah, that's not working, you know, the residents want it open and we re-extend it. So we have done it at different places and usually we end up reopening it.
Gary Bosak, 102-585. Do I have your permission to go off topic with a question? Anybody object? Jack Leary and I were fortunate enough to be asked to serve on the search committee for your new leader. And we think that this job is plum cherry. No debt, great facilities, highly ranked, fabulous staff. Nobody has to come in, chop heads, reinvent the organization. It's solid. So the fact that we have you all together is a unique opportunity for you to educate Jack and I about the kind of leader that you think we should be looking for. So in a word or two, I want each of you to tell us what you want in your new leader. Todd, you're the grizzled veteran. You go first. Take about it for a minute. Okay, minutes up. Now, we got an intimate setting here. You know, most of the people in this room have been to governing board meetings, workshops. Everybody here is committed to this community, so we're really wanting to do something for you all. Okay, Riley, go.
Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to see someone that's progressive, that's going to be looking towards the future. As Katie had mentioned earlier in her speech, Gen X is moving in. I happen to be one of them. We do things a little differently. We may not be quite the club joiners, if you will. So we might be looking for something a little bit different in the future. It's great to maintain, and we enjoy what we have here now, but we do always have to look towards that future. And that's what I'd like to see in our next GM.
Keep rolling to the right, Carl. Okay, Pat? Now, by the way, this is no reflection on Bill. I mean, we all know that for five years he did a fabulous job getting this position to the position here. So just because you identify something that you want in a new leader doesn't mean he didn't have that characteristic. He very well could have the exact same thing. So please don't feel like this is something contrary to what we're asking you for. But Kirsten?
I would say, coming from a human resources person, that we approach things kind of in a servant leader position where we are membership based and we're looking holistically at providing all of the things that our members want and that we can support with all of our staff. And so someone that supports our staff in that same way, that is creative and is very open to suggestions and changes, which we had with Bill. So I'd like to see that continue. And I think just, again, that holistic approach of at the bottom and the basis of everything that we do, and I will get a little choked up here, we are people. And when you all get to come in to the facilities, we want you to come in as the great people that you are, and you're going to see the greatness that we are and that what we try to do. And I want that just to be celebrated and recognized. And so again, just at the base level, it's about the people.
Thanks. Terry?
Well, I will echo what Riley said as a newer resident here in the community. He's right. Joining a club may not be really for me. I enjoy lots of different activities, and I'm probably not going to go 3 days a week to the same thing. I want to do different things. And then also, so looking at those new different ways to do programs and things like that. Then also just collaborative, being able to take our management team and put us together and bounce ideas and work as a group, not just one manager versus another manager, somebody that wants to listen to all of us and keep us as a working group together.
Katie. We want your help. We want to do your bidding.
Again, as I said in the beginning, I think when you're a brand-new community like the Villages and it's developer-driven and top-down, and you've got developers sitting on your board of directors basically telling everyone what to do and it's subsidized, that's easy. You know, it's one person's vision or one company's vision. But in a built-out community like ours, there's really 3 legs to this chair to keep it balanced. It's the residents first and foremost. It's the governing board that is driving the policy, and then it's the staff that's doing the day-to-day operations. And if one of those is out of balance, it doesn't work. And so I think a leader that recognizes what each of those brings to the table and listens to each of those. And I think when the current residents are heard and they have their ideas and their wants and their needs, and those are balanced, but then also the professional staff that may or may not live here, but they follow the trends, they study the trends, and they know what the generations 5 and 10 years from now, as we've heard, what they want, because we're looking out for, we're not going to spend millions of dollars because somebody right now wants it for the next 2 years. It's going to last 5 and 10 and 20 years. And so I think a manager that sees and hears all of those and brings it all together.
Great, thanks. Pete.
Well, thank you, Gary. The word that comes to me is pragmatic. I want someone who understands we've got headwinds, we got tailwinds, we have wants, we have needs, we have limited resources that need to be, identified for new generations, for old generations, for evolving demographics. I want someone that can adapt and to all those changes and have a vision, but know that it's going to be have to change along the way and communicate that as it happens.
Thanks. Russ.
I'll keep it simple. Foundation, team leader, a support mechanism, and one that's going to utilize its members so we can accomplish our goals. Those are the most important to me.
Great. You ready, Todd? Still writing. You want the mic?
Casey, I'll go.
Casey, go.
I'll be honest, I want somebody that's thick-skinned and
Okay, Carl, go.
that's gonna work as hard as I do. Okay, so we put a lot of hours in at this table, and it wears on us, and we need a leader that is gonna get in the trenches with us and support that workload and do his fair share, so.
Great. Come on, Patrick.
I've just got a couple thoughts here. Someone who listens, willing to get the full story from all angles, all aspects. Somebody that recognizes our history, which our tagline, Arizona's premier active adult golf community, and to realize there's success there. But we all understand there's got to be change. We don't want to be stagnant, but I think we need to take it slowly and not change overnight, but be who we are as a community. 46 years of success kind of, to me, sticks in my mind of we're not far off if we're not somewhat pretty good.
Yeah.
So, but somebody that's willing to listen and willing to put their time and effort into it as well.
Okay, this end of the table. Yeah, okay, go.
My microphone's not working, so I'm going to stand up. You know, I think just take a little bit of what everybody was talking about, you know, being supportive. You know, we've got a great team up here. We have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience in what we do. So having a new general manager come in and support us and also believe in what we do and trust our decisions that we make for our departments, I think that's very important. And I think that pretty much covers it. But
We'll also try to get somebody that's in the GAR with you at 5 o'clock in the morning driving the golf courses.
yeah, that's right. That'd be a plus.
Yeah, that'd be a
Absolutely. So.
plus. Okay, Casey.
All right, so they've pretty much wrapped it up, I think. But yeah, innovation, definitely. I would really like to see somebody who is open-minded and be able to work with the staff that has been here for many years. There's a lot of experience, but there's also new things for change. I am a millennial, so I am the youngest generation here, but I probably qualify more as a Gen X. So I would like to see change in the community for the best of the future for Sun City West and not stay stagnant because it's the way it's always been and move forward. So I'd really like to see a leader that has the strength, the endurance, the thick skin to stand right at that mic and speak the truth and be ready for people to come back at them because we will have their back.
That's terrific. You should all take consolation in the fact that the document we created that's going to attract someone to this place reflects everything that you've said. If you haven't had a chance to read it yet, read it, because you're going to feel good about what we're asking, what we're looking for. And again, we can't thank you enough for what you do for us. Thanks.
Agreed 100%. Jim Scott, 133818 again. Kind of along the same line. Ironically, 3 weeks ago, I had heard all about the villages, and I was always told it was like Sun City West, but on steroids. So being a man of curiosity, I dragged my wife over there 3 weeks ago and went to go explore it. And I will say I came back with a profound new take on what we have here at Sun City West. It is drastically different. It is new and improved and blah, 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 but I walked away with the vision of an ant farm. That's what I walked away with. The golf cart paths they have, I mean, it was just insane. But the courses were not even remotely close to the condition that we have here. These courses that we have here are phenomenal, the condition that they're in. But with that said, I just want folks to know, we have an amazing community here. The resources, the facilities are by far, sure, they got the little town center with the music and the shopping, the restaurants, and it was fun and it was energetic, blah, blah, blah. But the clubs don't even remote the facilities. There is no metal shop. There is no auto shop. There's no wood shop, the ceramic, silver craft, none of that. I went into one of the rec centers and the sewing club comprised of some ladies toting in their sewing machines into a conference room. And that's what they touted as the sewing club. So compared to what we have here for the Rip and Sew folks. So anyways, with that said, two questions that kind of build off of that. One, do we own, you guys, the RV storage facility, the lot there?
Yeah, we don't own anything. The Recreation Centers of Sun City West does not. That is privately owned.
So the income that's generated from that does not contribute here?
Not at all.
Ah, okay. Interesting how that's separate.
That,
Yeah.
sir, that was as Sun City was an idea of Del Webb, that independent RV storage area is an idea of Del Webb and has provided an amenity that is a private organization like we are for the benefits of the Sun City big picture. So the RV storage for Sun City, the RV compound is for Sun City, us here, Grand, and I think one other.
Oh, I didn't realize they all got to use that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And they are also a nonprofit organization.
Okay,
And to give you a comparison, if I store my RV at $100 a month, the fees there would be $100 a year.
yeah, and that's
So
what I was
it's
going to
excellent.
poke on, is if there was opportunity to tweak that, but obviously not. And then my final and last question, along with the facility, I mean, I guess that was the one takeaway I took away from the villages and coming back here. I just feel like we're stuck. I just don't feel like there's a vision. And I know I've attended some general board meetings in the previous months. Do we have a master plan? Do we have a map of where we're going that would encompass that facility someday, that has indoor pickleball courts or basketball court, whatever, with maybe an upstairs for the larger, I know the Boomers Club, sorry, are kind of stretched at the seams and looking for something bigger. Do we have a vision or master plan where we're going?
So the governing board's charging the new general manager with that task. In fact, the bylaws charge the general manager with that task. That's a sore point. On behalf of staff, I'm just going to apologize. I'm not going to talk about the past other than there is no master plan right now. I will tell you, this management team had a very good discussion on Monday. We have a lot of good ideas. We have a lot of our own documents, a lot of trends and data, and it just needs to be put together.
Yes.
Not going to apologize anymore as to why that hasn't happened, but we're going to put what we have together so that the new interim and the new general manager have that, at least a starting point, so that they have something to jump on. So I suspect that will be getting done with the new general manager sooner than later.
Okay, so I look forward to that, because I think all of you guys, everybody's got some different ideas in the community as well, and I think that is something long overdue. I mean, yeah, just watching our fees increase, just as, with the same business as usual, but nowhere vision going forward of evolving. Yeah, it would just be, it's long overdue, and look forward to it. Thank you.
I do want to add one comment to that, though. Regardless of a master plan, per our policy, every year we show our 5-year projection of what's in our reserve and repair and replacement. So there's nothing surprising about that. It has all of our assets allocated so that we can see for 5 years to technically infinity on how we're going to repair and replace. Master planning really touches on that new philosophy. What's new? What's the new trend? What's the new thing that we're going to do? And it is important, and we all believe that it's important, and we're happy to get to that place. But for the most part, the bulk of everything that's in this operating budget and next year's and the following comes from our repair and replacement allocations, so that we know how we trend from year to year. There is no unknown about it.
Well, you're kind of poking on the hornet's nest, because Kuntz, I follow the Facebook media, the community page. I attend the board meetings, and I just been paying attention, and I want to see things from my own eyes. So I went and looked at the fence over at the softball field. Yeah, it's in bad shape. It's due. Then I went to look over at the courts, the tennis courts over there, and half of them are all locked up. I mean, those courts they're unsafe, all crinkled and so, I mean, how long have those been locked up and put away for abuse?
So let me help with that a little bit. So compiling an annual budget, operating and capital, it takes balance. It takes our input, our observations, what we find is absolutely necessary, what could be postponed as a conservative approach. And then we have a governing board approval in the final vote of it all. So even with best intentions from a repair and replacement, the governing board does its best to make sure that despite our best intentions or our deferral of something, the fence at Kuntz, at this point, the best decision from the governing board is to align it with a future year project to keep costs down today. So even R&R has the potential of being delayed if our governing board decides that, and they make very good decisions about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
One more question and we're going home.
Kathy Estes, 131671. Well, I'll wrap it up for you. I would just like to thank every one of you for all of the hard work that you put in every single year putting this budget together. I know it is a struggle trying to keep costs down and yet provide all the amenities and the facilities that we as members want. So thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out tonight.